A recent survey found that nearly 60% of American households don't have enough supplies to survive for even 72 hours after a disaster. That's not a statistic from some fringe prepper website. That figure comes from emergency preparedness research backed by the same organizations, the Red Cross, FEMA, and the CDC, that respond when everything falls apart. But here's what stops most people. They assume preparedness is complicated. They picture a basement full of military rations and gas masks. They think it's expensive, time-consuming, and honestly a little embarrassing. What if I told you that for a few $100s spread over 6 weeks, you could put your family in the small percentage of households not paranoid bunker ready? Realistically, practically, quietly prepared. In this video, I'm going through 21 items the Red Cross considers essential for emergency preparedness. And I'm giving you one thing most stockpile lists never do, a framework that tells you which ones to get first, which ones can wait, and exactly why each one earns its spot. Stay with me because item number 14 is one that almost nobody gets right, and it could prevent a completely avoidable crisis for your family. Before we get into the list, there's a framework you need to understand. Because not all preparedness is equal. Think in 3 tiers. Tier 1 is your 72-hour survival window, the immediate crisis. Tier 2 is 2 weeks of sustained disruption. Tier 3 is extended scenarios measured in months. Every item on this list fits into one of those tiers, and I'll tell you which one as we go. Most lists don't make this distinction. That distinction is everything. Item 1. Water purification tablets. Tier 1. The 72-hour essential. Here's what most people get wrong about water preparedness. They buy bottled water. That's not preparedness. That's optimism with a purchase receipt. Within 24 hours of any serious crisis announcement, store shelves are wiped completely clean of bottled water. Within 48, gas station convenience stores follow. Within 72, you're looking at communities fighting over what's left. Water purification tablets are the real answer. A single bottle of 50 tablets fits in your shirt pocket. That bottle can clean up to 25 gallons of questionable water, rainwater, river water, even pool water in an absolute emergency. The chemistry is straightforward. These tablets contain either iodine or chlorine dioxide. You drop one in, wait 30 minutes, and you have water that's safe from bacteria, viruses, and most parasites that would otherwise destroy your digestive system at the absolute worst possible time. Here's the kicker. Properly stored tablets stay effective for 5 or more years. You buy them once, tuck them away, and they're still ready years later. During Hurricane Katrina, the families who had water purification options stayed healthy. The ones who ran out of bottles got sick. Waterborne illness kills more disaster victims than the initial event in many documented cases. That's not fear-mongering. That's documented disaster medicine. Get tablets. Get them this week. Then we'll talk about upgrading to a full filter system. That's coming up at Item 2. White rice. Tier 1 and Tier 2. A 20-pound bag of white rice contains roughly 30,000 calories. That's 2 weeks of survival-level food for one adult, or several days of meaningful meals for a family of 4. It costs less than $15 at most warehouse stores. Stored in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, white rice has a verified shelf life of up to 30 years. Not an exaggeration. Not marketing language. That's documented by food storage research under proper conditions. It's easy to cook, goes with almost anything, and it's gentle on the digestive system when stress is already tearing it apart. The B vitamins support your nervous system during extended high-stress situations. And when fuel is scarce, rice water, people have used it for centuries to manage dehydration and diarrhea. One critical note. Store white rice, not brown. Brown rice has more nutrients under normal circumstances, yes. But it also has significantly more natural oils, which causes it to go rancid in about 6 months. For long-term storage, white rice wins every time. Prioritize longevity over marginal nutritional differences. Item 3. Dried beans and lentils. Tier 1 and Tier 2. Rice alone isn't enough. Combine rice with beans, and you have something close to a complete protein. These two foods together have sustained entire civilizations through the worst chapters of human history, famines, sieges, long ocean voyages. 1 pound of dried beans expands to 6 cups when cooked. The fiber keeps your digestive system functioning when dietary variety disappears. The iron prevents anemia when meat is gone. The slow digesting carbohydrates give you steady energy instead of blood sugar crashes. Lentils and split peas are especially useful because they cook faster than larger beans, which conserves fuel, and fuel conservation matters when you don't know how long a disruption will last. They can also be sprouted to create fresh vegetables when produce is completely unavailable. Ground into flour. Beans can substitute for wheat when that runs out, too. Stock of variety. Black beans, chickpeas, pinto beans, lentils of different types. Each has a different flavor profile and cooking time, which is more important than it sounds. Appetite fatigue, the point where people stop eating entirely because the monotony is unbearable, is a real phenomenon in extended crisis situations. Variety prevents it. Item 4. A quality water filter. Tier 1. Here's the water security framework you want. Tablets are your immediate solution. A filter is your sustained solution. Having both is the goal. Gravity-fed filter systems, like the Berkey or the LifeStraw family unit, remove bacteria, parasites, and many chemical contaminants from virtually any water source, with no power required and no chemicals needed. You pour water in the top. Clean water comes out the bottom. A single filter element processes anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 gallons before needing replacement. Compare that to 50 tablets handling 25 gallons, and you start to understand why a filter is a long-term investment in water security rather than just a product. For evacuation scenarios specifically, portable straw-style filters, like the individual LifeStraw, let you drink directly from a lake, a river, or a puddle when you cannot carry large amounts of water and you need to drink from whatever source you can find. Tablets plus a filter plus knowledge of purification methods. That's your water security. Triple redundancy. That is the goal. Item 5. A manual can opener. Tier 1. I cannot stress this enough. You can stockpile 500 cans of food, beans, tuna, soup, vegetables, everything a family needs. And without this one tool, every single can becomes a decorative object. Electric openers fail when power fails. Battery-operated ones drain resources you need elsewhere. A basic manual can opener needs nothing. No electricity, no batteries, no charging. It just works. Disaster response teams consistently document cases of people attempting to open cans with knives, rocks, and concrete edges. They waste food, cut themselves badly, and contaminate the contents in the process. A hand injury during a crisis, when medical care isn't readily available, can escalate into something genuinely dangerous. Military models like the P-38 and P-51 are practically indestructible, sized like a large coin, and cost about $2 each. Get 3? Keep one in your kitchen, one in your emergency kit, and one in your car. $2. This is a $2 problem with a $2 solution. Do not be the person who discovers this gap when it's too late. Here's something that most stockpile lists never explain, and it's the difference between feeling overwhelmed and actually building a useful emergency supply. Not every item on this list carries the same urgency. When I talk to people who gave up on emergency preparedness, the reason is almost always the same. They looked at a 30-item list, felt paralyzed by the scope of it, and did nothing. So let's break this properly. Your 72-hour tier, the first 5 items we've covered, plus a first aid kit and lighting, these are non-negotiable priorities. If a disaster hit your neighborhood tonight, these are the things that keep you and your family safe for the first 3 days. Everything else in this video builds on that foundation. Your 2-week tier is hygiene, sustained nutrition, communication, and cash. You're not in immediate physical danger, but you need systems that work without external infrastructure. Your 3-month tier is energy independence, community networks, and renewable food production. That's for extended scenarios. The point is, you don't have to do all of this at once. You just have to start with Tier 1, and Tier 1 is achievable in a single shopping trip. Item 6. A real first aid kit. Tier 1. Not the little plastic box with 4 bandages and a cotton ball that comes with a new apartment. A real one. During disasters, minor injuries become major problems with alarming speed. A small cut that heals in 3 days under normal conditions can become a life-threatening infection within a week when sanitation has failed and medical care is hours or days away. This happened repeatedly in every major disaster in modern history, including documented case studies from Hurricane Katrina, the 2010 Haiti earthquake, and the 2011 Fukushima region displacement. Your kit needs trauma shears, sterile gauze, surgical tape, antiseptic wipes, antibiotic ointment, a clinical thermometer, and an actual first aid manual. More on that in Item 7. And here's what most kits are missing that almost no standard list mentions: a tourniquet, hemostatic wound packing gauze, and a SAM splint. These 3 items address the injuries most likely to be life-threatening in a disaster scenario: severe bleeding and fractures. The American College of Surgeons' Stop the Bleed campaign has documented the life-saving impact of civilian access to tourniquets. Add one to your kit. Over-the-counter medications matter too. Antidiarrheal medication prevents dangerous dehydration. Anti-inflammatories manage pain and fever. Antihistamines handle allergic reactions that would otherwise require emergency treatment. And for prescription medications, talk to your doctor about maintaining a 90-day reserve. Many physicians will accommodate this request when you explain your preparedness reasoning. Insulin, cardiac medications, antidepressants. None of these can be delayed without serious consequences. Item 7. A physical first aid manual. Tier 1. You have the kit. The question is whether you know what to do with everything in it. Phones die. Internet access fails. And your memory of that first aid course from several years ago is far less reliable under acute stress than you think it is. Research on cognitive performance under stress consistently shows significant degradation in recall and decision-making. The point is, when your hands are shaking and someone is injured in front of you, you do not want to be trying to remember protocols from memory. A physical waterproof first aid manual doesn't require power, doesn't need a signal, and doesn't ask you to recall anything. The Red Cross Wilderness First Aid Manual is particularly comprehensive for scenarios where professional medical help is not immediately available. It covers wound care, fracture management, burns, choking, CPR, hypothermia, and basic medication dosing. Keep it in your kit where it's always accessible. Add sticky tabs to the sections you're most likely to need. Review it occasionally, not to memorize it, but so it isn't completely foreign when you actually reach for it. Item 8. Peanut butter. Tier 1. 1 jar of peanut butter contains over 6,000 calories. 2 tablespoons deliver 7 grams of protein. No refrigeration. No cooking. No water. That is an absurdly useful food for an emergency context. The healthy fats support hormone production, which matters when your body is under sustained physical and psychological stress for extended periods. The B vitamins and magnesium help maintain nervous system stability during a situation where anxiety is running high and sleep is disrupted. But here's the angle most lists completely miss. Peanut butter serves a morale function that's easy to underestimate. Familiar food reduces psychological stress. Under sustained crisis conditions, this is measurable. It's not just comfort in the colloquial sense. Children especially will reject unfamiliar emergency rations. Peanut butter on crackers is recognizable. It's normal. In a situation where everything else has stopped feeling normal, that carries real value. Natural peanut butter contains no additives that might cause reactions during a period when medical care is unavailable. Store multiple jars across different locations. Don't put all your calories in one cabinet. Item 9. Cooking oil. Tier 2. More than 8,000 calories per liter. No other shelf-stable food comes close to that density. Cooking oil enables food preparation that's otherwise very difficult or impossible. It prevents sticking over open flames. It extends the usability of dry staples by making them palatable. Mixed with flour, it creates flatbread without yeast or an oven. And in a true emergency, it can fuel an improvised oil lamp when conventional lighting runs out. Different oils serve different purposes. Coconut oil stays solid at room temperature, stores for 2 or more years unopened, and has natural antimicrobial properties. Olive oil provides heart-healthy fats and enough flavor variety to fight food monotony over an extended period. Generic vegetable oil maximizes calories per dollar when budget is the controlling priority. The storage rule for all of them: cool, dark location, away from heat and light. Once opened, transfer to smaller containers to limit air exposure. Oxidation is the enemy, and limiting it extends your supply's usable life when replacements aren't available. Item 10. Lighting. 3 layers, all 3 matter. Tier 1. Darkness during a crisis isn't just uncomfortable. It's psychologically destabilizing in ways that are well documented in disaster psychology research. People make worse decisions in the dark. They get injured more frequently. They panic faster. Sleep deprivation from disrupted day-night cues compounds every other problem you're already managing. Adequate lighting is a mental health tool as much as it is a safety one. LED flashlights run for 200 or more hours on a single battery set. Headlamps free your hands for actual work, which becomes critical when you're managing tasks that require both manual dexterity and visibility. Lanterns light up entire rooms for group activity and shared space. And candles serve as your backup to the backup: no power, no batteries, and a steady, calm light that also provides some residual warmth. Choose beeswax or soy over paraffin. They burn longer and cleaner, which matters in spaces with limited ventilation. Emergency candles designed for survival burn for 100 or more hours per unit. That's weeks of light from a single candle. Jar candles are safer because they don't tip. Keep glow sticks for situations near flammable materials where an open flame is genuinely risky. Item 11. Batteries. Lithium, not alkaline. Tier 1. When the grid goes down, batteries become currency. Not figuratively. During major outages and disasters, people actively trade for them. But not all batteries are equal for emergency storage, and this is a distinction that almost everyone gets wrong. Alkaline batteries hold their charge for 5 to 7 years in storage. Lithium batteries hold it for 10 to 15. For supplies you're buying now and may not need for several years, that difference is enormous. Darkness causes accidents, panic, and psychological deterioration. Battery-powered LED lighting flips that equation completely. A single set of batteries in a quality LED lantern gives you weeks of illumination. Battery-powered radios keep you connected to emergency broadcasts when internet and cell service are gone. And medical equipment, glucose monitors, hearing aids, specific therapeutic devices needs the right battery type without exception. Running out of those isn't an inconvenience. It's a medical emergency. Inventory every battery-dependent device in your home. Label containers by type. Rotate stock annually. If you're finding this useful, hit subscribe. I cover practical emergency preparedness without the paranoia and without the sales pitch. And stay with me, because item 14 coming up is the one almost nobody gets right, and it could make the difference for your family in a situation you hope never happens, but absolutely need to be ready for. Item 12. A portable radio. Tier 1. When cell towers fail and internet infrastructure goes down, a battery-powered radio is your only reliable connection to the outside world. This isn't a hypothetical scenario. It has happened in every significant U.S. natural disaster in the last 2 decades: Hurricane Katrina, Superstorm Sandy, major California wildfires, the 2021 Texas winter storm. NOAA weather radio broadcasts continuously on 7 dedicated emergency frequencies that keep operating when commercial stations go dark. Real-time information about evacuation orders, incoming threats, and resource locations is not a convenience during a crisis. It determines whether your decisions are informed or desperate. Two-way radios extend your ability to communicate within a neighborhood. Basic FRS radios cover roughly 1 to 2 miles. Ham radios, with proper licensing and the right equipment, connect regionally or even globally. The ability to coordinate with family members who are separated from you has a documented impact on outcomes. Get 2 types of radio. Battery-powered for best reception and reliability. Solar or hand crank as a backup that never needs batteries, though reception on those units can be weaker for distant stations. Store your radio in a protective case. Some preparedness specialists keep electronics in a Faraday cage or metal container, specifically to protect against electromagnetic pulse scenarios, a precaution that costs almost nothing and provides insurance against a low probability but high consequence threat. Here's something almost no stockpile video will tell you, and it's probably the most practically important thing in this entire video. Most people who have emergency supplies think they're prepared. They're not. Their supplies are quietly failing right now, and they won't discover it until the moment they actually need them. The four silent killers of any stockpile are temperature, pests, humidity, and light. Temperature is the most damaging and the most overlooked. The ideal storage range for most food supplies is between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Every 10-degree increase above that roughly doubles the rate of nutrient degradation and flavor loss. Your garage, where most people store emergency supplies, regularly hits 90 to 110 degrees in summer. You're not storing food at that point. You're slowly cooking it. Pest infiltration is next. Rodents and insects can compromise sealed containers in ways you won't see until you open them. The solution is Mylar bags combined with oxygen absorbers for long-term food storage. Mylar is impervious to pests and blocks light simultaneously. Humidity causes the same degradation in vitamin supplements and medications that it causes in food. Silica gel packets in every container. And light exposure, UV radiation accelerates rancidity in fats and oils and destroys certain vitamins passively over time. Dark containers or completely opaque storage locations. The set-and-forget approach to stockpiling doesn't work. A 30-second annual review of each storage area pays for itself every time. Item 13. Cash in small bills. Tier 1. The power grid fails. ATMs stop working. Card readers go dark. Digital payment systems are worthless in under an hour. Physical cash is suddenly the only functioning currency, and this transition happens faster than most people expect. It played out this way during every major natural disaster and infrastructure failure in recent U.S. history. Within hours of a serious event, any transaction requiring electricity simply stops working. Small bills are critical, and here's the specific reason. During chaos, no vendor is making change. The person selling water from the back of a truck or the neighbor trading supplies with you cannot break a 50. You pay what they ask or you overpay. $20 bills waste money on small purchases. Stock ones, 5s and 10s. This maximizes every dollar you spend when it matters most. Distribute cash across multiple locations. Your emergency kit, your home in a concealed location, your vehicle. Financial experts recommend keeping at least 1 month of normal expenses accessible in physical cash. Vacuum seal it for water protection. Include coins. Some vending machines operate on battery backup and continue functioning during power outages. Item 14. Duct tape and heavy plastic sheeting. Tier 1 and Tier 2. Here's the item most lists gloss over and almost nobody gets right. These two things together solve a range of emergency problems that spans from structural to medical to chemical threat response. And the key word there is together. Separately, each is useful. Together, they become a disaster response system. Heavy plastic sheeting seals windows against airborne chemical or biological threats, a scenario that sounds extreme until you're near a chemical plant. It patches compromised roofs temporarily. It creates emergency shelter when structures are damaged. During disease outbreak scenarios, pre-cut plastic sheeting and duct tape can build an improvised isolation room in your home in under 10 minutes, preventing an infected person from spreading illness throughout the household. Emergency responders carry both of these items as standard kit. There's a reason for that. Buy quality versions specifically. Military-grade duct tape maintains adhesion in extreme temperatures where standard versions peel and fail. 6mm plastic sheeting resists tearing while remaining workable. Anything thinner tears under stress and pressure. And here's the pro tip. Pre-cut your plastic sheeting to fit your windows and doors before a crisis occurs. Store the pre-cut pieces labeled with their intended location. When shelter-in-place orders come with 30 minutes of warning, you do not have time to measure, cut, and the work is already done. Item 15. N95 and P100 respirators. Tier 1. COVID-19 made everyone familiar with masks, but the experience also created a dangerous misconception. Basic surgical masks, and certainly cloth face coverings, do not protect against wildfire smoke, chemical spills, or concentrated airborne biological threats. The particle sizes involved are simply too small for those materials to intercept. N95 respirators filter 95% of airborne particles down to 0.3 microns. PEEP100 respirators filter 99.97%. These are verified NIOSH certification standards, and they are the masks that actually protect your respiratory system during serious air quality emergencies. California wildfires demonstrated this in documented measurable ways. Wildfire smoke contains fine particulates, heavy metals, and toxic compounds from burning synthetic building materials, not just wood smoke. Breathing it for days causes genuine lung damage that manifests months later. An N95 prevents the majority of that exposure. Store several per person. Respirators degrade over time, especially after any use. Check expiration dates and keep them sealed until needed. Item 16. Work gloves and nitrile medical gloves. Both types. Tier 1. Your hands are your most critical tools in any survival scenario, and they're also your most exposed vulnerability. Disaster aftermath involves debris, broken glass, sharp metal, splintered structural wood, and occasionally downed power lines. Heavy leather or cut-resistant work gloves protect your hands during debris clearing, cooking over open flame, operating improvised equipment, and building emergency shelter. Without them, you'll either injure yourself or avoid doing necessary work. Neither option is acceptable. Nitrile medical examination gloves serve an entirely separate function. They protect against infection when treating wounds, yours or someone else's. Cross-contamination during wound care is a documented source of secondary infection in disaster scenarios. Stock both. At least one pair of heavy-duty work gloves per person in every emergency kit. An ample supply of disposable nitrile gloves for all medical applications. These are not redundant items. They do completely different jobs, and you need both. Item 17. Important documents in waterproof storage. Tier 1. Here's a reality that doesn't make it onto enough lists. You can physically survive a disaster and still lose everything if your documents are destroyed. Insurance policies, passports, birth certificates, social security cards, medical records, prescriptions, and financial account information. Losing these creates a bureaucratic nightmare that in some cases takes years to fully resolve. FEMA disaster assistance, insurance claims, medical continuity, and even identity verification. Without it, you're fighting two crises simultaneously. Build a 3-layer system. Physical copies in a waterproof folder or vacuum-sealed bag. Digital copies on a USB drive stored in a separate physical location, not in the same house, ideally. And a cloud backup as a 3rd layer accessible from anywhere with internet. Give a trusted person outside your immediate geographic area their own copy set. This entire process takes about 1 hour, and that hour could save you months of post-crisis bureaucratic suffering. Do this before any of the other organizational work in this video. It's the highest value 60 minutes you can spend on preparedness. Item 18. A portable solar charger and power bank. Tier 2. Phones, medical devices, radios, headlamps, most of your critical emergency tools eventually need power. A quality portable solar panel continuously recharges a power bank during daylight hours without any grid connection. That power bank charges your phone, which gives you access to downloaded emergency plans, contact lists, offline maps, and critical information that doesn't require active internet. A 20-watt panel paired with a 20,000 mAh power bank gives you roughly 4 to 5 full phone charges on a good Sunday. This creates an energy loop that doesn't depend on infrastructure at all. Sun hits the panel. Panel fills the battery. Battery powers your devices. Repeat every day, indefinitely. Keep the power bank fully charged as a standing daily habit, not something you charge when you think about it. Then the solar panel maintains and restores that charge during any extended outage. Look for panels rated at 20 watts or more for meaningful charging speed. Anything less, and you're waiting all day for a fraction of a charge. Before we get to the final 3 items, I want to share something that doesn't appear on virtually any stockpile video, and that most emergency preparedness guides address only briefly if at all, because it's counterintuitive and it challenges the entire solo household model that most prep culture is built around. Isolated household preparedness has a ceiling, and that ceiling is lower than most people think. Post-disaster research consistently shows that one of the strongest predictors of positive outcomes, knowing your neighbors, sharing skills, coordinating resources. Neighborhoods with organized informal networks recover demonstrably faster and with fewer casualties than those where everyone locked their doors and managed individually. The practical application isn't complicated. Before any crisis occurs, have a simple conversation with the people on your street. Who has medical training? Who owns a chainsaw for debris clearing? Who has a generator? Who has an infant or an elderly parent with specific needs? You don't need a formal organization. You need a basic awareness of what's around you. Agree on a neighborhood meeting point. Share contact information that doesn't depend on cell service. Think about what you could contribute and what you might need and have that conversation now, while it's relaxed and optional, rather than later when it's urgent and emotional. One household with a water filter, one with first aid training, and one with a generator is more resilient than 3 households each trying to cover everything alone. The community prep multiplier is real, and it costs nothing but a conversation. Item 19. Fire starting tools. Multiple methods, one outcome. Tier 1 and Tier 2. Heat, cooked food, purified water, warmth, and light in a power-down scenario. All of these can trace back to fire. A single fire starting method is a single point of failure. Stock 3. Waterproof matches stay functional, even after exposure to moisture and wind. Butane lighters are reliable, cheap, and operate under most weather conditions. Ferrocerium fire starters produce sparks in rain, wind, and temperatures as low as -40 degrees Fahrenheit, and a quality ferro rod is rated for 12,000 or more strikes, effectively unlimited for emergency use. Having all 3 means you can start a fire under almost any realistic conditions. Knowledge matters here at least as much as the tools. Practice fire starting before you need it. Understand ventilation requirements for indoor heating scenarios. Know what dry tinder looks like in your specific region. The equipment is useless without the competence to use it. Item 20. Emergency mylar blankets. Tier 1. They look like crinkly aluminum foil. They weigh almost nothing. They cost about $1. And they prevent hypothermia, which begins when core body temperature drops below 95 degrees Fahrenheit. These blankets reflect up to 90% of your body heat back toward you. In a cold emergency situation, that reflection is the difference between a manageable night and a medically dangerous one. They pack to the size of a deck of cards, which makes them appropriate for every emergency kit, every vehicle glove compartment, and every bag you might grab in an evacuation. Beyond thermal protection, they work as signal mirrors to attract rescue attention, as shade panels in extreme heat, as temporary waterproofing for improvised shelters, and as insulating liners for sleeping areas by covering walls or floors. Buy a pack of 10. They're inexpensive enough that redundancy costs almost nothing. Put one in every kit, every vehicle, every bag in your house. Item 21. Multivitamins and targeted supplements. Tier 2. Here's the invisible threat that arrives quietly, weeks into a crisis, when the obvious emergencies have been managed. When your diet collapses down to rice, beans, canned goods, and peanut butter, nutrient gaps open fast. Vitamin C deficiency, scurvy, begins showing clinical symptoms in as little as 4 weeks on a diet lacking fresh produce. And this is not ancient history. Cases appeared in the aftermath of extended modern disasters. Vitamin D deficiency, which already affects an estimated 42% of Americans under normal conditions, according to NHAN's data, accelerates dramatically when people shelter indoors for extended periods without sun exposure. B vitamin shortfalls cause cognitive confusion and muscle weakness. These compounding deficiencies pile onto everything else you're already managing. Don't buy cheap vitamins. Poorly formulated supplements use compounds your body can barely absorb. You're paying for something that passes through unused. Look for methylfolate instead of folic acid, and methylcobalamin instead of cyanocobalamin. These forms are biologically active and actually utilized. Seek third-party tested brands. The price difference is modest. The effectiveness difference is significant. Beyond a general multivitamin, consider vitamin D supplementations specifically for extended indoor scenarios, probiotics for gut health when your diet changes radically, and electrolyte supplements to prevent dangerous mineral imbalances during heavy physical exertion or dehydration events. Store supplements in cool, dark, dry locations. Date the bottles. Rotate the stock. There's one more category that no physical list captures, and it may be the one that determines how well your family actually functions when everything else is going wrong. Physical preparedness is the foundation. Psychological preparedness is what lets you use it effectively. Decision paralysis, the inability to act clearly under acute stress, is one of the most documented failure modes in disaster response. Families without a written plan spend crucial early hours in confused, emotional debate about what to do first, where to go, and who does what. A written family emergency plan, reviewed once and stored with your physical supplies, eliminates that delay. It doesn't need to be elaborate. It needs to answer 4 questions. Where do we go? How do we communicate if separated? What do we grab first? Who is responsible for what? For families with children, the psychological dimension extends further. Children anchor on familiar routines and familiar objects during disruption. Comfort items, a specific toy, a familiar book, a favorite non-perishable food, dramatically reduce trauma response in young children during extended crisis scenarios. Activity supplies keep children occupied and reduce anxiety spirals that exhaust everyone. And for adults, the simple act of writing in a journal during an extended shelter-in-place scenario has documented benefits for stress processing and decision clarity. These don't weigh anything. They don't expire. And they may matter more than several items higher on this list. So, you've watched the full list. Now what? Here's the truth about emergency preparedness that most content in this space doesn't say plainly enough. The information is not the hard part. Anyone can read a list. The hard part is actually converting what you just watched into physical supplies in your home before the moment when you actually need them. Most people who watch videos like this feel briefly motivated, do nothing, and then find themselves in exactly the situation 3 months later. Don't let that be you. You've watched this far. That means you're actually serious about this. Here's the system. Start with 5 items. Not all 21. 5 items this week. The Tier 1 Essentials, water purification tablets, a manual can opener, a basic first aid kit. Those 5 can be acquired in one trip to a hardware store, a pharmacy, and a big box retailer. Under 2 hours. Under $100 in most cases. In 6 weeks, you have a meaningful emergency supply that covers the 72-hour window completely and begins building your 2-week capacity. This doesn't require a dedicated prepper room. A shelf in a closet, a few clearly labeled boxes, and a rotation schedule on your phone does the job. The goal is calm, affordable, thoughtful preparation, and it is absolutely achievable for anyone watching this. Modern supply chain infrastructure operates with almost no buffer inventory. A single panic buying event clears most retail store inventory 4 to 72 hours. When the next crisis triggers, and some form of crisis will always come eventually, these items will be gone from shelves before most people have even decided to start. The window for calm, affordable preparation is always before the event, never during it. You now have a tiered framework, 21 specific items, and a 6-week action plan. The information is there. What happens next is entirely up to you. If you're starting your list this week, drop a 1 in the comments below. I want to see how many people are actually taking action from this video, and it helps more people find this content who need it. And if you want to know what comes after the stockpile, because here's the thing most people don't realize, having supplies and knowing how to use them correctly are 2 very different skills. In the next video, I'm breaking down the 5 biggest mistakes people make after they've stockpiled, the storage errors that silently ruin supplies, the rotation failures that leave people with expired food in the middle of a crisis, and the one organizational mistake that turns a well-stocked emergency kit into complete chaos when time is short. You've done the work of building the list. Make sure it actually works when you need it. That video is up next.